Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another fantastic series with our experts in the Healthy Kids Revolution. This is Carmen Johnson, your host, and today I am so excited. I'm feeling like I'm always excited, but I am excited because this is a very neat thing that we have. We have Diana Herrington joining us today as our featured expert. She is the founder, head chief, and nutrition consultant for Real Food for Life, and you can find her at www.realfoodforlife.com. Diana, we are really happy to have you here today, so welcome.
I'm very happy to be here, too. It's really exciting because this is a subject that's near and dear in my heart. You know, balancing your body with acid-alkaline balance is very important.
And I have to tell you, I'm sure part of the audience here is going, this is scary. I don't know about acid and alkaline. I just don't know about it. It's over my head. And, of course, one of the reasons that we've brought Diana into the Healthy Kids Revolution Summit is because each of our experts, their goal is to really simplify what seems like complicated nutrition information. So hopefully by the end of Diana and I's discussion today, every one of you is going to walk away with a very simple understanding with a couple of clear-cut things you can do to help get your children's day started off on the right foot. Is that exactly what we're going to try to do today, Diana?
That's exactly it. I don't think things have to be complicated. I like making things simple.
Well, that's what we need from you. So, please share with us. Maybe I should actually, before we get too far into it, I do want to let everybody know that you have taught cooking classes all around the world. You're an author of several ebooks. You write weekly articles, and you're host to the second largest Care 2 group in the country. I don't know if everybody knows what Care 2 is, but it is the largest online social network website geared towards, it's an active community that empowers people to lead healthy and green lifestyles. Is that how you would best say it? They geared towards social action movement? Okay.
Yes, and with over 22 million members, that shows you how big it is.
That's shocking. 22 million members. So you have great exposure and a great opportunity to affect many people's lives. And so thank you for sharing your time to be here with us today.
Great. I'm looking forward to sharing more.
So I've got a slide up of you now. Here is the Diana before. Can you tell us about the Diana before? There's always a story of where you got to where you are now.
Well, I always have been a bit of a health nut, but there was a time where I ran a business, I burnt myself out, and I was starting to eat too much of not the right things, and I got really sick. I got very severe chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. I was basically sick for 15 years, and I got to a point where at 5'6", I was down to 94 pounds. And this was not because I didn't want to eat. It was because my digestion was totally bad, and it was very acidic. My whole body was very acidic. And I became a disabled person. I couldn't even walk around the block. And I had to live on disability because I was literally disabled. I couldn't wash my floor. There was a time where I couldn't even take a bath by myself without somebody being there.
My goodness.
Yeah, so I really went someplace. Yeah.
And now I'm showing the slides of you now. I mean, you look vibrant, healthy. This is a healthy look,
Yeah. There's still days where I think, oh, my, did I just walk an hour and make sure that I walked up 100 steps when I went on that walk or up some hills? And I travel all over the world because I'm with a company also that I market some products for. They just take me on these free trips, so I just go on them. And, and there I am in Tibet and in Hong Kong and down in California. And in Canada.
Fun. I want to be you.
So, yeah, it's really been fun to be healthy and vibrant again, for sure.
And you mentioned something interesting that I really don't know much about, and although I'm a health coach, there's so many aspects of being healthy that we all can't be experts in everything. And so, I'm an expert in teaching children about the science of their cells, but you here today are going to explain to us as the expert the science of acid and alkaline. And you said your digestion was all messed up. And I know lots of moms and dads on the phone probably have kids that have digestive issues, tummy aches all the time. And so can you speak to us about that?
Well, it's interesting because this acid alkaline balance is much bigger than people realize, and I started learning about it in 95 and 96, and that's a long time ago now. And people are only starting to become aware of it in a bigger way now, which is, like a long time later, like 16, 17, 18 years later. So I feel very privileged to really know this, and I was trained it with a naturopathic doctor on my own body, and I learned how to move forward with it. And it's not just about digestion, it's about your whole health. Your whole health, your whole weight, everything is very, very much influenced by this acid-alkaline balance. And we'll go into those details as we go along here now.
Okay. I flipped over to slide 7. So acid is a waste product?
Yes, it's basically, our body is supposed to be at a balance of acid-alkaline to acid, and 7.4 is where it's supposed to be. And so what happens here is when we get too much waste of acid, it becomes hard on the body. So then the body has to get rid of it through sweat, urine, and and a lot of chemical transformations. Like if it gets too acidic, what it does is it starts stealing things like calcium from your bones, because calcium is alkaline forming. So now we end up ruining our bones and our muscles because it starts, because your body is not going to let you get too acidic, so it gets pulling things out, and then if you don't get rid of all this acid waste, it starts accumulating in your tissues and your organs, and then now it's causing disease and premature aging. Now none of us want to start feeling and looking older, right?
Right. Oh, no way. Vanity is rampant in our country.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. And so what's that doing to the kids? What is this acid environment doing in our children? The very same things it's doing in grown-ups?
Yes, it is. It's doing the very same thing. And if you look at do we have the acidity? There are many, I love what this Shang Wang, this author of Reverse Aging, says. He says there are many different processes of aging depending upon the different parts of the body, but there's only one cause for all these different processes. It is the accumulation of acid wastes in our body. We age because we accumulate acid waste products.
Wow. Okay.
Now, that's happening on every single level. That starts happening as a child right through until you get older. So let's catch it before it gets my idea is let's help children right away.
Well, where you have excess acidity equals the big 3-letter word that everybody's afraid of, the fat. How are those two things correlated?
Well, when you have a lot of excess fat, excess acid, which actually are toxins. Toxins get stored in fat cells. So when you have fat cells in your body, that is where toxins get stored. They have to store somewhere. So when you start getting rid of the toxicity and start cleansing them out, then guess what? The fat has to leave because they're all stored in the fat cells. So we want to get that. That's what happens. And it's very, very, very difficult to lose weight if you're very acidic. So you have to get more alkaline. And you look at that little boy lying on the sofa there. I mean, and look what's in front of him. It's all junk food. And guess what? All that junk food in front of him is all highly acid. And
highly toxic, right? So full of toxins.
And very toxic. And so when you look at him, you can see that it's not just that he's wiped out and he's tired and he's fat, but he could be on his way to diabetes.
Oh, yeah.
A very high acidic environment actually is a very leading cause of a diabetes, and children are getting more diabetes now than ever before, and a whole other host of health problems. It's just the beginning of it. So we don't want to go there. And who wants to have their son looking like that, wiped out because he's
right.
Just
His quality of life has got to be greatly reduced.
No, and he's not running
just
around being a bad boy, which we hope he will be.
Yeah,
it'd be better if he went running around.
Exactly.
Yeah, Yes, yes. We want our little boys to be mischievous, as long as they're not bad, just mischievous.
Yeah. So, I'm wondering, okay, I hear you talking acid and alkaline, and how do we get the body into that balance? I'm looking through her slide deck, everybody, and I'm kind of fast forwarding going, okay, I really want the meat of this. I mean, how do we help our kids? If I go to slide 14, how do we alkalize our body and get to peak health? Because I'm sure that's what the parents online want to know. How do I get my kids in balance?
Okay, yes. Well, what we want to do is we need to start very simply with, have simple baby steps. And you can see when you're looking at this picture of, this little boy sitting there, and on one side he's got two sweet things in front of him, right?
Right.
On one side he has, things like cakes and cream puffs, and on the other side a whole beautiful bowl of fruit. I mean, when you look at that, which one does actually look more beautiful? It's the fruit.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks so. Now, on one side we've got alkaline forming foods, and on the other side we have acid forming foods. And which ones are the acid forming foods, would you say, Carmen?
Well, I guess the ones that have all the toxins in them.
And all those cakes and cream puffs and everything?
Yes.
Yes, those are your acid forming ones. And on the right side, those are what we call alkaline forming. So that's how we start to alkalize our body. So just giving them the choice. What I would do is I wouldn't have that stuff on that one side, all those cakes and muffins or whatever. I just wouldn't have them in the house. Just have bowls of fruit for their sweet things. So that's a really good way to start.
I have a question for you, because I, as a mom, the reason you heard me kind of hesitate when you said which one is acidic, I think of oranges, the citrusy. I think of that as being acidic. And is that incorrect?
Well,
are we talking about different kind of acid or acidity?
Well, it's a different type of acid. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
What it is that they start out being, what happens is that there are foods that are alkaline forming, and there are foods that are acid forming. So that's the main thing. So when you have an orange, basically an orange starts out acidic, but when it goes through your body, it becomes alkaline forming.
Huh.
And wouldn't you be surprised to know that the most alkaline forming food that there is are lemons? And lemons,
I think that's
as you
amazing.
know, they start out being very acid, but they're very, very alkaline forming in your body. So there's a whole chemical process that happens as they go through your digestive system.
Okay.
So all those, and basically all those pastries and stuff, they actually start out being kind of alkaline, but then they become acid forming in your body big time.
Because of the toxins in there, and when we say toxins, we mean the chemicals.
It's not necessarily just toxins. Not all food,
No? Okay.
not all food that is acid forming are toxic, by any means. It's the imbalance. Yeah, not all foods that are acid forming are toxic. There are some very, very healthy foods that are acid forming. It's just a matter of getting the right ones in there.
So that's what we need to know today. We need to know what are the good foods we need to be getting inside of our kids, right?
Yeah. And so
all right, well, there we go, to begin.
Right, so to begin, the first thing to do is to have whole foods versus junk foods. Most junk foods, I can probably say almost all junk foods, are very acidic, and more whole foods you're definitely going to get healthy. It doesn't mean that all whole foods are alkaline forming, but it's a good start. There's going to be more foods in there that are healthy and alkaline forming. The other thing that's the main thing is to have lots and lots of vegetables and lots of greens. Those are your most alkaline forming foods. So it's a matter of getting those in. And you can see that boy, he don't like his greens, and that kind of can be typical. But if you get them liking them when they're very young, then you just put them on their plates and find ways to get them to eat them. They will eat them, because I grew up on vegetables, and I've always liked vegetables. We always ate them when I was a kid.
Okay, so Diana, I'm going to segue off of your slides for a moment, because I think you just touched on something that our parents could probably really, really use some help with, because, you know, they're getting they hear the noise, need to feed your kids more greens, feed your kids more greens. We've got that message, but you as a chef, boy, can you really help us figure out some simple things that you do with vegetables to get them on the table that kids will eat them? Can you give us a couple of examples? Because I'm thinking, man, I want to know how I can get some more veggies on the table.
Okay.
I hear you loud and clear. I got to do the veggies, but I just don't know how.
Okay.
So what would you
good.
suggest for us as examples?
Okay. Are we recording now?
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry. Okay, yes, exactly. Well, one of the things that's a really, really good thing to do is to, when you can make green smoothies. And I've got some very great recipes for them, and you put things like oranges and apples and other fruits together with some spinach and some Swiss chard, some greens, some of the softer greens like that. And you might think, oh, does that taste good? But you know what? It actually does taste good. It's kind of like what you want to do is just make it, and maybe don't show them what you put in it to start with the first time, so that they just get to see it and eat it, because they do really taste good. And at first, put more fruit than a lot more fruit than greens, and you can slowly up it a bit more. It'll still always be sweet. Like I would never make it so green that it wasn't sweet. But you can up that as you go along. And another thing that you can do that's very, very simple is, you know, like when you're making, say, a pasta, I always use brown rice pasta, and you're making one of your quick pasta meals. You just chop up some greens and put it in it. Chop up vegetables. Make sure that pasta is at least half vegetables, and it's all mixed in with it. And that gets them in too. And then find out their favorite ones and put them in there, you know, just so they get lots of, you know, it doesn't have to be just greens, but lots of different vegetables, so that it's not pasta that's so, because the pasta is an acid forming food, so we want to get a lot more in there like that. And anytime you're making a meal, you just add more vegetables to it. When you're making, say you're making something with some potatoes and stuff. Potatoes are a vegetable, but they're not really, you know, they're kind of a starchier vegetable. You can add some greens to it at the end. You know, you can add a few carrots or some other vegetables to it, you know, just to make it a little bit more healthy, so you're getting a few more nutrients in it. So yeah, and I have some wonderful salad recipes too, where you make the salads more fun. And
how do you make a salad more fun? How would you make a salad more fun? If I were 12 and coming to your house, what would you do?
Well, for a start, I have a really nice raspberry salad dressing. And that would be one of the things that I would do, and I'd find out what kinds of vegetables you did like, and I would put those all together. Okay. You know, and for a snack, I might have some celery sticks where I put a little bit of almond butter in them, or even avocado if they like avocado as in the side of it. You know, I do stuff like that just to make it so that I'd always be figuring out how can I get some vegetable in here? How can I, you know, add some more if I'm making a you know, say you are making a fish stew or a soup or something, where you just make sure that there's just lots of vegetables in it. Okay. And throw in some greens as well. The greens just get lost. You know, like,
they do. They really do. They can get lost in soups if you puree them. Like, I bought a Vitamixer about a year ago, and I wasn't a big smoothie maker, but I'm telling you what, that Vitamixer is fantastic at just chopping, very finely chopping up any kind of vegetable, and then you just mix it in with your spaghetti sauce. You mix it in with your soup broth, and the kids don't even know it, and they're still getting it. So thanks, Diana, for giving us. Those are all good ideas. Yeah, exactly. You've given us a raw version with the smoothie, so they've got the most integrity from the greens and the fruits, right? Just blending it up raw, not cooking it and applying any heat. And then our second option, if we must heat it, then we can blend them up and put them in pastas, pizza toppings, whatever, inside soups. Just put the puree in there, and it certainly adds a lot of flavor and life to the broth.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
correct?
yes.
If
No,
you're
that's
making a chili, you can blend up some spinach quickly and put it in like a Southwest Tex-Mex kind of chili, and the kids probably won't even know it's in there.
And even if you don't blend it, even if you just chop it up and throw it in, it'll cook down.
Okay.
If you don't want to take the time to blend it.
You don't have to,
sometimes,
and then have to.
No, for me, I always do things really quickly, so I like the idea of blending, but I know that I don't always feel like washing the blender up and doing all that, so I just chop it all up, throw it in, and it's just done.
Okay.
When I want to eat basically now, and within 10 minutes. I don't want to wait half an hour to make this meal. I want to eat.
Exactly, and that's again the quandary that our parents are in with the advent of our social society and the advent of all the technology. We're so busy, crazy, because everything's so instant now that we don't have time, and we want our food to be almost instant as well. We don't want to have to put a lot of effort into spending time in the kitchen. So I think anything that we can offer our listeners today as far as quick and easy things. So thank you for tossing my Vitamixer out of the door and going, hey, just throw it in the soup. See, I learned something today, so that's super fantastic. Now I don't have to worry about
It's still good to use that. It's just that sometimes it takes a little bit more time, so we went a little bit faster.
That's right. That's one extra step. Well, that's actually two extra steps. So I like that you sort of give us that alternative, and I think that's what a lot of parents are going to hear today. Sometimes we know these things, but we just have to hear it in a different way, and at one point, the different way that we hear it, it's going to click in our brains.
Right.
So I appreciate you sharing that, and then I'm cheating, and I'm flipping through your slides going, ooh, I want to talk to her about this. How about, this is a big thing that I don't think we have much information on in this summit, but I went to slide number 22, which is called Increasing Your Healthy Grains. And I would love for you to talk about healthy grains and gluten-free and what's going on around the noise around gluten.
Right. Well, the thing is that first of all, grains as a whole, most grains are acid-forming. And even though they're healthy, I wouldn't mind maybe. Okay, no, we'll go on. Anyways, even though they're healthy, they're good for us, it's like they can be acid-forming. And so what we want to realize is that having some acid-forming foods in our diet is not bad. It's the quantity. So here we've got a control. Like here's a combination here of what's healthy and what's not healthy. One of the most healthy grains is quinoa, which isn't even really a grain. It's actually a seed. So it's actually grain-free, but it feels like a grain. And wheat is very, very highly acid-forming, whereas quinoa is not very acid-forming. It's a little bit acid-forming.
Okay.
And millet, for instance, which is a very healthy grain, is very, very, it's alkaline-forming, so it's actually good for you, whereas wheat is very acid-forming. So we don't want to be having that in our diet, especially white flour wheat. That's really, really, and so the whole idea is if we're going to eat some grains, number one, let's eat grains that have healthy ingredients in them. That they have lots of vitamins and minerals, and that they're really good for you. Whereas things like white bread and it doesn't have anything good for you in it. So basically, you want to add those, and then you want to minimize the amount of acid-forming foods that are in your diet, and have just the healthy ones. So
that's why people are directing us. Is that why people are mainly directing us towards the quinoa and the millet and spelt and things like that? Is it because those are all ancient grains, and they're things that our generation did not grow up cooking with those particular items. That's why we're so unfamiliar with them. And so obviously one of the goals of the Healthy Kids Revolution is to help parents figure out what are these things that we used to eat that are actually good, and how do we incorporate that into our diet? How do I cook quinoa?
Yes, and
what's a good way that you can prepare it?
Well, I have the recipe on my site, and you have to know it. Yeah, and I actually go through the whole preparation of it, and there's a little bit of thing with quinoa that you do have to rinse it because it needs rinsing. Let's
Okay.
get it. There's some, so it has sapiens in it. We'll go into that. That's a whole other subject. But it's
Oh,
good to
really?
rinse it. And once you rinse it, then it's much better. And I have really simple ways. And I even have a video on how to cook quinoa. So
Is
you get
that
to my
video
site,
on your
you'll
website as well?
Yep. It's on
I
my
can find the
website
video?
for
Okay.
sure.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome.
Yes, definitely. So that's the main thing, is to get these healthy grains in, and to get some gluten-free ones. We now know that a lot of the gluten is causing a lot of trouble for a lot of people, and I'd probably say that most people don't deal as well with gluten as even those who think they're not having a problem. If they're overweight, it's quite likely that that's one of the reasons why they're overweight. They say, well, many people say, well, that are overweight, they say, oh, I can eat everything. Yes, they can eat everything, and they're not getting stomach aches and stuff, but guess what? Why are they so overweight? It's because that's being stored as acid in their body, as toxins, and there we go. There's the whole story all over again.
Exactly. All right. So if we advance now to we're on slide 23. This is a little bit more advanced, because I think we should throw out some advanced stuff, because there are going to be plenty of people on this call that sort of already know what we've talked about, but what would you throw out that's a little bit more advanced for those who are very seriously well into their journey of healthy eating?
Well, the number one thing on the advanced is to have an 80% of food be alkaline forming. So I keep talking about balance. So what we want to do is to go to the next slide there, and you'll see that basically 80% of the food should be in this category. They should be alkaline forming foods. And we don't want 100% alkaline forming foods. It's all right to have the other 20% be acid forming. And acid forming basically are usually grains and proteins. So we're not going to say proteins are bad for us, are we? Because we need protein. So, whatever type of proteins you choose, then they need to be about only 20%. And how do you get this? How do you get this to happen? Well, the way I get this to happen is I say that when you're making a meal, you make sure that 80% of it are vegetables. The other 20% is either grains or it's protein. Don't have the grains and the protein in the same meal, because it'd be hard to have only 10% of each, right? So you have 20%.
Right, and a lot of people do that. They're like, oh, here's your chicken and rice. Have some chicken and some brown rice with a few little sprigs of broccoli in there. How about let's have a plate of broccoli with a little bit of chicken dolloped on top?
And that's the whole thing.
Of brown rice, right? We've
got
to
so when you have that,
what is it called? Reverse engineering our dinner plates, I think.
Yeah, because when you have that plate that you just said with the piece of chicken and the brown rice, and brown rice is good for you. Say the chicken's a nice organic chicken, it's good chicken.
Exactly.
And then you have that little bit of vegetables. Well, what you've just done is you've had 80% acid forming and 20% alkaline. This is really common. And when I do testing with people, because I have a testing, have a testing service and that I work with, when the results come back, very often people are 80% acid and 20% alkaline. That is often the results I get.
And
if they're really lucky, they're only 60-40. Yes, I get it. Well,
hair, so hair samples?
Yes, I do it through a hair analysis with a lab that I work with. And
so if anybody's interested in finding out if they're, too far one way or the other, which you probably know simply by what you've been eating, if you're acid or alkaline, definitely reach out to Diana and check her out on realfoodforlife.com. So I love that analogy. I think that painting that visual for them of the dinner plate of broccoli, let broccoli be where the rice was. You have a big bowl of broccoli, and then decorate it with a little bit of grains of brown rice and chicken or tofu or whatever you want to throw in.
Well, no, I wouldn't have both of them.
That's right. Grains and tofu, see? That's doubling up on
I wouldn't have them both. I would just have one or the other so that we keep it simple. And you know what? Maybe you don't like broccoli. And maybe it's just that whole side of the plate is just a whole big group of stir-fried or steamed vegetables. Like there's You know, there's carrots and there's green peppers and there's onions and there's zucchinis and, you know, there's all kinds of really nice things in there. And that's what you want, a whole beautiful arrangement of vegetables. And then you have maybe your piece of fish or your tofu or whatever with that. And you'd be surprised. You do get filled up, but you just have to eat more vegetables.
There you go. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I saw one study somewhere that said we should eat about 75% vegetables, and we as a society eat only about 15% vegetables on a daily basis. That's we're way, way, way off track on our veggies. So that would be and that other 5% to bring it up to 80% is the fruit. We just need to get some fruit in there too, and fruit instead of cakes and cookies. Fruit and veggies.
So the next more thing is looking at at the advanced thing is looking at this food combining.
Okay.
And that's always a little bit tricky for people to get their head around. So when we look at the food combining, what it means is that when we do combine the food properly, we get better digestion, which helps us to be healthy and slim. When we don't have good digestion, we often end up unhealthy and overweight. There is nobody with a bad digestion that can be healthy, because everything starts with your digestion. Okay. And when you have extremely poor digestion, like I had, it's definitely thin. You know, you really are. You're not going to get anywhere. So you have to get to the right level. Now, what happens with food combining? I have in one of my ebooks. I go into quite a bit of detail about it. But to keep it really simple, because we're talking about keeping simple, because sometimes this really gets people, they can't really understand this because it gets a little too complicated. But the way that I explained doing the acid alkaline to get the 80% alkaline foods with 20% acid, that is a properly food combined meal. You either have the brown rice or the pasta or the quinoa with it, or you have the protein with the vegetables. That is totally well combined, because proteins and grains, they compete with each other in the digestive system, because one of them gets digested in the stomach, which is the proteins, and the grains get more digested in the intestines and the colon. So they conflict with each other. So you eat one or the other, and the vegetables combine well with both. There are more specifics about it. You can get into lots and lots of detail with this. This is another thing that I learned back in 96 from when I was in a clinic getting better, and the doctor there trained me and taught me about this whole thing, and I really needed it. And I came out of that clinic. I went into the clinic weighing 94 pounds, and I came out weighing 98, which maybe doesn't sound that great, but it was an increase, you know. And then I went on to get healthier and healthier. So yes.
Well, this has been a good conversation around what's going on in our body, Diana. I love where you have taken us, and so now that we've had this education about what's alkaline, what's acid, what ratios do we need between grains and proteins and greens and veggies. Now, tell us about kids starting their day off on the wrong foot. That was the whole point of this conversation. We were going to lead everybody down to how are we starting our kids off with waffles and waffles with syrup and that kind of breakfast, bagels with cream cheese, starting them off that way.
Are you looking at a particular slide right now?
I'm not. No, I just went again off candor here.
Okay.
And
okay. Well, basically, what happens in the morning, we start out, if you just go to the place where it says plant-based diet, and what happens is that when people start out in the morning, usually it's with a cereal that's out of a box, and that box cereal almost always has sugar in it, and refined grains, which are all, those refined grains are also just a little molecule away from sugar as well. That's all acid forming. Now we pour some milk on it, again acid forming. Maybe we even put a little extra sugar on it, more acid forming. so
Right.
this isn't good. This is not the way you want to start. You want to start the day alkalizing, and what happens is that's I'm just telling you one of the worst things. But sometimes it's a muffin, again, acid forming.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe you're making something a lot healthier. You're making porridge, and you're putting sugar and milk on it. Well, the porridge is kind of good, but the thing is it's acid forming. The sugar is acid forming. The milk is acid forming. So none of that is the way you really want to start the day. What you want to start the day with, and that's why I got this plant-based diet. Look at that little girl with the apple in her. You know, this is a good way to start the day with fruit. What happens is the reason why we take sugar in first thing in the morning is because our brain needs to be fed. Right now, it needs glucose. So we take sugar in, and our brain gets the glucose right away. Guess what? Eat fruit, and you get that sugar into your diet, into your body right away, and it helps. It goes to your brain right away. So you want to have fruit in there first, and you can go on after you've had the fruit. You can go on to having some porridge, and you'd have the porridge not with the milk and not with the sugar, but you'd put some dried fruit and some nuts in it, and you'd eat it that way. That would be, and I sometimes put like a nut cream on top, which again I have a couple of recipes on my site about that. So you know, that would be a way. I would call that breakfast part 2, but I would start them with something alkaline, maybe a green smoothie, maybe a fruit smoothie. You know, just depending on what they like. You want to find out what they like. But you basically, if you can start with light food and raw food and plant food, this is the best way to go. I mean, ideally, something like a green smoothie would probably be my number one choice. But sometimes maybe you can't quite get that together. So then you maybe eat a fruit salad, and you throw on some walnuts or some almonds with it. You know, just to kind of give it a little bit more. You know, and then maybe you go on to a little bit of porridge afterwards. Does that give an idea?
Yes, and if you were to add it, I know a lot of kids like yogurt, and so is it appropriate in this?
Oh yeah,
in this
you know what?
thing?
That's one of the few proteins that's alkaline forming. Isn't that interesting? I never really understand why it is, but it's alkaline forming. So there's another good thing. You could have the fruit salad with some yogurt on it.
Okay, and throw in the nuts and all. That's a good little.
And to sweeten it all up a bit. And to sweeten it all up a bit, you put a little bit of squirt of stevia in, and you make sure you get a good stevia that doesn't have it's not a highly refined one. And the stevia is alkaline forming, whereas all the sugars are acid forming. Okay. And I really use a very good stevia, and I'm very fussy about stevia. If you want to know about a good stevia, ask me. I am very fussy about it because a lot of those stevias are highly, yeah.
And so what is this? I'm thinking now as what do I make my children for breakfast? What am I sending them off with? And, you know, sometimes I'll make a pot of oatmeal, and, of course, you're calling it porridge. I was thinking for a minute, I wonder if porridge is different from our southern oatmeal. But we're making some kind of little breakfast like that, or we'll do some waffles that I make myself. I'll make a big batch at a time and then freeze the extra ones so that they don't have the partially hydrogenated oils in there. I've made them myself. So I'm not worried about shelf life.
I mean, it's fine, but they are all really. It is all quite acid forming. All that.
Yes, so that's
the only problem.
I'm needing to rethink my own breakfast.
It's just a little bit too much. What I would consider that thing is breakfast part 2. And when you're making the waffles or you're making the porridge, that what you put on top of it is important. And I would not use maple syrup. I wouldn't even use honey. I have a couple of syrups on my site where I make a lemon syrup or an orange syrup, and I might use honey in it, but it doesn't become the whole thing because I put juice with it now, freshly made juice, and it makes the whole thing. It brings it up a level to being a little closer to being more balanced rather than highly acidic. So that's where you want to go, but you want to still start out with something lighter like fruit. That's what you want to start with because the body can easily digest that. because you're breaking the fast first thing in the morning. When you break the fast, your body is in cleansing mode. So to give it something to just cleanse things out a bit to start with, and then go on to the heavier things afterwards. That's how, and that keeps it food combined too. If you have the raw fruit with the cooked, then it's not so food combining. So you start with the raw first, let that, get started, and then you eat something cooked. If that's what you want to do. I mean, I don't eat anything cooked in the morning. I'm quite happy just to have raw. I usually have either a green smoothie or I have a fruit salad. And I have a concentrated herbal mixture that I mix in with it that gives me that little extra nutrition.
Excellent. So I think we've gotten to, I've just enjoyed our conversation so much, I looked up at the time and I went, wow, I mean, I felt like we've been talking for 30 minutes and we're almost an hour into our conversation. So I know, I hope our guests are still hanging in there and taking away little golden nuggets that we just went through as far as the breakfast. And anything you want to recap? Right now I've got your slide up, number 33, which is really directing people back to your website because you were so generous to donate your time and be on the Healthy Kids Revolution Summit with us. I definitely want to encourage people to look to you for some wonderful resources that you have on your website. Did you want to direct us to tell us what you have here?
Well, I mean, it's really, we get compliments daily about all the good information that's there. There is just a whole realm of information about foods. We write long articles on different kinds of foods. Like just recently I wrote a whole article on, are you getting enough potassium in your diet? Are you eating enough foods with potassium in it? I write articles on carrots, and we write articles on mangoes and honey and all kinds of foods. So you get loads of information. On every one of those articles as well, there's links to recipes. So you now know, okay, I'm not getting enough potassium. Here's some recipes that are high potassium recipes. Oh, here's a recipe for salad dressing, or so there's lots of good recipes there too. So that's all good. And then I do a lot of private coaching with people as well.
Okay.
So if you go into the next one, you can see that. And I really help people get individualized. Because that's the whole point, is just knowing how to do it for yourself. And then we have weekend boot camps, which are really great, and you just kind of follow along there. The normal boot camps, they're tough. You need a lot of time, and you have to have financial commitment. That don't work. So, but our Real Food for Life boot camps, have you got that page up? Real Food for Life boot camps, what they provide is, their information from, really lots of information has gone into this. I've really worked on and made sure that I really know what I'm talking about, and we're really going somewhere. And over a very short time, you get to concentrate to gain skills, and you have all the support to gain the confidence. And the really great thing about these, you don't have to leave your home to do them. They're all done from the convenience of your home. They're all online. Online boot camps. Yes, so that makes it really easy, and you can do it with your whole family. And here's a list of some of the ones that we have up. We've got one boot camp that's all about alkalizing your body, and then we've got one on food combining. We've got one on the Healthy Chocolate Project, healthy gluten-free baking, healthy weight loss. And now what happens in these is you get phone calls, you get homework before the weekend, you get shopping lists. So, when you're in the alkaline one, all the most alkaline foods, you get detailed menus with recipes. You get told what to do all day long.
Oh, wow.
You get to know, when to drink your water, when not to drink it, and what to eat when, what your snacks should be. And after, after a whole weekend of that, you really have changed. So, you can check that out. If you go to our site, there's a place to click on,
That's
you can
amazing.
definitely, there's a whole Alkalize Your Body weekend boot camp. So that's good. And I'm just going to tell you something about the Healthy Chocolate Project, if you could go to that page, because
that sounds interesting. What is the Healthy Chocolate Project?
Who does not like chocolate? Well, I actually met somebody who doesn't like chocolate, but that was kind of I was just shocked because usually you don't. which child doesn't like chocolate? But you know, all that chocolate that you buy out there, it is not healthy. It's filled with sugar. Even when you go to the health food store, it still has brown sugar in it. And brown sugar is just white sugar with a little bit of molasses in it. So I've made a whole bunch of recipes and I've practiced them, and they all have healthy sweeteners in them, healthy fats, and they're delicious, and they don't have that bad stuff in them. You can learn how to make your own chocolate. Once you start making your own chocolate, the chocolate
you never go back.
I don't like it. I have not eaten a normal chocolate in 2 years, and I am a chocoholic.
Oh, me too. I'm going to go find one of your recipes right after this call. I want to go see how to make
and this Healthy Chocolate Project it's one of our boot camps, and you'll get a whole group of recipes with videos to show you how to do stuff, and it's really fun. And you go away with really, really good chocolate.
Hershey's is going to go out of business, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Is it Hershey chocolate, the chocolate manufacturer?
Oh, God,
Once we can make our own stuff, you're right. The factory processed stuff just does not taste the same once you've had the real stuff.
When you do something like this Healthy Chocolate Project, you get a lot of information. Like you're taught about chocolate and all the benefits that it has in it for you.
Awesome.
And all that research about how chocolate is good for you, it was done on chocolate. Not dark chocolate, but it was done on just plain chocolate.
Oh,
it was not done on that stuff. So it
Okay.
wasn't done on that. So everybody thinks, if I eat dark chocolate, but guess what? All that dark chocolate has sugar in it. I have never found a dark chocolate bar that's made with healthy sugar. Never. Except mine. Mine is so good. And I just love it.
Well, we all have to go try Diana Herrington's super famous chocolate recipes, and we'll have to post things on Facebook if you find ones you really, really love. Give Diana some love on Facebook and Twitter, and let everybody know about these recipes and share them with your friends. Share her website with your friends in particular so that they can go and grab and see what else Diana has to offer. So, Diana, I don't want to keep you past what I promised I would keep you because you're giving of your time.
But I want to give one more. But I have one thing.
What's
one
that?
thing.
Oh,
go to the very last slide there. There's one free thing. I want to make sure everybody gets a free ebook. It's called 3 Secret Habits of the Naturally Thin and Healthy. So much of the information that we talked about today, there's a beginners in there. And I want everybody to know that they can have that book for free.
Oh, wow.
So
they just log on to your website, log on to the book.
Yeah. And they can ask to have that for free, and they can have it.
Oh, that is very generous of you. Thank you so much. So everybody go into realfoodforlife.com and grab Diana's free book for your resource and kind of get some more exposure to her and the way she thinks and cooks and prepares healthy things for herself and her family. And it's just been great to have you. I love that you had the time to share with us and the knowledge to share with the community to let all these moms know that we have to do a couple of things differently, the way we're eating. Try to reverse engineer the dinner plate, try to get more raw fruits and things in the kids in the mornings. And I'm sure behavior will be better in school. Their ability to concentrate will be better in school if they get their bodies in balance like that, start their morning off right. Isn't that correct?
Exactly. Yes,
okay.
That's it for sure. You've got it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again
and
for your time.
I'm totally available.
Yeah. Yep. She's available. Okay, so you guys look her up. Make sure you find her. And, again, Diana, we've enjoyed having you as part of the Healthy Kids Revolution. And hopefully when we do Healthy Kids Revolution 2, we can bring you back and let you take us a little bit deeper dive into this alkaline acid conversation.
I would love to.
Okay. All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day. And thanks for being on with us.
Okay. You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Happy alkalizing.
Okay, yes.
Bye-bye.
We're on the journey. Bye-bye.